Good day and welcome to another House Nugget. Always a pleasure. I keep saying it and I really do mean it to come to you every single day. Please like, share, subscribe, put on your post notifications so that we can come to you every single time. We've been in the life of Joseph. I think that this is going to be our last installment in this series in Joseph. We've been doing this for 3 weeks. There's probably about 16 nuggets. So if this is your first time watching, you can go back and just binge them. It's just 5 minutes, 6 minutes maximum. It's not going to take you too long. And I hope that it will be a blessing to you. So we see Joseph, as we come down to the end of this story, going back and forth with his brothers. And between chapters 42 of Genesis down to 45. And then in chapter 45, we see where Joseph finally reveals his identity to his brothers. And his brothers is like, immediately they go into stress, like it floods back to them what they have done, and they're stressed out. And I want to highlight Joseph's heart in this moment and his forgiveness, because I think I need to read it for you. He says to his brothers, "Now therefore be not grieved, nor angry with yourselves, that ye sold me hither, for God did send me before you to preserve life." And that is such a great show of forgiveness, of a forgiving heart. And I just want to highlight that particular point, because forgiveness, I think, becomes much easier when it is done in the context of God's plan. It doesn't, you realize that those persons' intentions might have been evil, but God had a divine purpose. And when both parties can come back together at some point in the future, as we thought about and talked about yesterday about reconciliation and restoration, it's only when you can see things in the context of the bigger picture of God's plan that you can get true restoration. And we see in this chapter, as we go down, that it got to the point where Joseph was able to kiss and cry on the shoulders of the brothers that hated him and sold him into slavery. And the scripture even says that they talked. You see that it was a totally different relationship from the beginning of the story to what it is at this point, because you see at the beginning it said that they hated him, and then they hated him, and then they envied him. But now they're able to kiss and talk. So we see true restoration coming because these parties saw the true context of God's plan. And the final thing I want to highlight is that in God's plan, all things work together for our good. It's one of those most popular scriptures that we learn as believers, but do we really, really, truly understand and believe it? Because sometimes when our faith is tested, we don't necessarily always stand true to the word that in spite of what we're going through, God has a greater purpose. He has a good for us. He has good intentions for our lives. Joseph was in Egypt for, at this point, the theologian said, about 22 years, longing for his family and probably being homesick. And we see in this particular scripture where all of God's plan comes together, where he says that it was God's intention to save the lives of his people. And we see Pharaoh commanding Joseph to send chariots to get these people and bring them. Don't worry about their belongings. They're going to be taken care of. So in the midst of famine, in the midst of lack and hunger, we see that God had a divine plan set up years in advance for the good of his people. So just remember to stand firm in these truths, that God has a greater plan. Restoration, peace, all of these things can come when we understand God's divine purpose and in his divine plan in our lives and even in the context of the relationships that we have. I pray that these devotional, these nuggets have been a blessing to you. As I said, this is the end of our session in Joseph. We're going on to a different character next week, so look out for that. But remember, go do, go give, be blessed. Have a wonderful, wonderful weekend.